Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
Ridley Pearson, author of Choke Point. Ridley, thanks for calling.
Hey, thanks for calling me.
Thanks, Ridley.
Well, it's just my used to thing, but I appreciate it, and we're excited to talk to you, and I can see you're enthused about being at the book fair. I'm sure you've enjoyed the food and enjoyed the atmosphere so far, right?
I love this book fair. I've been coming, I think, 23 years.
Wow, that's exciting.
My DNA's in the carpet. They keep trying to vacuum it out, but it's still there.
And to get to share, as we talked about with so many of our authors so far, with other authors and learning about what makes them
Yeah, but you don't want to buy their books. You really just want to buy my books.
I like it, a promoter. So tell us a little bit about your book.
No. I've been writing a series that started with Risk Agent and now is in Choke Point and soon will be in Red Room, about I'm exploring the world of private security. I got really fascinated in the Iraq War that there were more private contractors on the ground than military. And some of those guys were your typical mercenary who, just wanted to run around with an Uzi and protect people. But some of them were resuppliers of the troops that would drive these convoys to the bases from Kuwait. For 4 trips into one of these bases, driving an 18-wheeler, you were paid $80,000 a month. And that got my juices going because I wanted to know who that person was that didn't want to necessarily be aggressive but wanted to be in a thrill area and wanted the high pay. So I've envisioned this character, John Knox, who needs to pay because he has a brother who has some medical issues, loves the thrill of it all, and after a year or two when it all goes pretty badly for him there, he bails out and then ends up occasionally freelancing for a private security firm where he's joined by a woman named Grace Chu. And I taught a creative writing class in China for a year at Fudan University and had the most amazing students. And so Grace is sort of a combination of 4 or 5 of the young women that I taught there. They were very ambitious. They were in kind of culture shock from having grown up in the provinces and now being in a city of 20 million people. But they were really intent to rule the world of business. And, teaching them, I learned a lot about staying with things. It was really quite a thing. So Grace is this very ambitious person who's able to do white-collar crime investigation. She's terrific with computers, which John Knox is not. And they're kind of a yin and yang. And, they go on these various missions, if you will. Choke Point takes place in Amsterdam. So I've just had a really fun time writing it.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
I'm sorry.
I know you have a ton of questions.
Go ahead, Eric.
Oh, no, I was just saying it sounds like a lot of fun. I can imagine the research for this book has got to be really entertaining.
Yeah, it's really, it's a joy because I've written domestic thrillers. This is, I think, my 47th book or something, and I've written domestic thrillers for years. But I'd always really admired Follett and Ludlam. And my first couple books were espionage thrillers, and I wanted to sort of write a contemporary espionage thriller that wasn't necessarily spies, because that's not a world I know about. And so I did. I had to dig in and research everything. And there's this thing called the Internet. And come to find out, you can find out a lot of things on the Internet.
Who knew?
And, yeah, who knew? Including, here's one. I went over to Amsterdam for Choke Point and spent several days over there with my assistant. We were kind of, scouting sites, if you will, like location scouting for a film. And we found all the places that were in my outline, and we took zillions of pictures of them. And in an American coffee company, which you can imagine has a green sign, on the last day we were there, her cell phone was stolen with all the photos on it.
Oh, no.
So we head home with no photos. Well, there's this thing called the Internet. And it turns out that Google Maps, where the little guy that you drag, Street View, Google Street View,
yeah,
has now included some foreign cities, including Amsterdam. So I was able, after about a week of pulling my hair out, I realized this and was able to go on right back to every location we'd been to, and I could, screen grab and amass another 300 photographs exactly like the ones we'd taken, maybe better than the ones we'd taken. So, there was this sort of ability to be in a place virtually, which even 4 or 5 years ago with speeds that they were, it never would have been able to happen, but it was just really, really fun.
That's exciting.
It was a new world for me because I'm always the guy who's actually on the ground and in the trenches, and this time I did it virtually through YouTube and Street View, and it worked. I mean, I was able to get there, return to there, and paint the picture again.
That's really interesting, Ridley. One thing I wanted to ask.
I can hear you snoring. What do you mean that's interesting?
You're funny, for sure. You're entertaining. No, I wondered why Amsterdam. Why did you choose that one? And I'm looking at, the whole mystery of this and the investigation, and especially with the girls and the child labor and all that stuff. Why Amsterdam?
A little thing called tax-free travel. No, I'm kidding. I get to deduct all these trips. So after Shanghai, I thought, where do I want to go next? Amsterdam. No, Amsterdam seems, I'd been there several times, and it's a bit of a dichotomy because they've allowed the whole red light district in Amsterdam,
right.
And, smoking pot and things is legal. So it's a really strange city because it's very old and has this wonderful, rich history. Some terrific museums, beautiful architecture. It's a canal city. Most of it you can get around by water taxi. And then I think really kind of as a touristy thing, years ago, they had allowed all this sort of Sodom and Gomorrah in their midst. And it's intrigued me because you get these vagabond ex-hippies, wandering around smelling of patchouli oil, as well as international bankers and, the lot. So I tried to look for someplace that I'd been that was super interesting and maybe not all that well known. I mean, you can write about London and Paris and Rome and places like that, but I want to write about this, not that Amsterdam's off the beaten track, but it isn't maybe the first place you run to when you travel to Europe. My next novel, Red Room, is set in Istanbul. So, I look for places that intrigue me. Istanbul has that same dichotomy in that it's the only major city in the world that's on 2 continents. It's in both Asia and Europe. So, I look for places. I think that situation and location in novels are their own character if they're used properly. I don't want to write a book that, you could say it could be in Columbus, Ohio, or Austin, Texas. I want to write a book that has to be in Columbus, Ohio for this reason, or a book that has to be in Amsterdam for this reason, has to be in Istanbul for this reason. So I try to use location as character. So before I start my next book, I just scout around for a city that strikes me as a character. That probably sounds aloof and odd, but that's how I do it.
That's great.
Well, absolutely, definitely, Ridley, and I think that picking those that interests the readers. That's how you.
I think that's fun too. I mean, I do get a lot of emails saying, I had traveled there once, but once I read your book, I felt like I'd lived there for 5 months, and what fun! And that's terrific. I mean, that when you bring that to a reader, that's really a thrill.
That's what keeps them engaged. And do you do the same process for all your books?
I try to. A long time ago, after you write 1 or 2 books, you realize you're going to run out of ideas, and you're going to run out of people to write about. So I've tried for a long time to base my books on research, but I try to pull a blanket over it so it isn't, the spring action of a trigger or something. I think that if you write about fact, it's easier for the reader to believe than when you just make it all up. So, yeah, I try to do a lot of research but not make the books feel research heavy. But if I can write about this fact and that fact and this fact, like if I'm writing a police procedural, and then I have to bend one of the facts, you may not even note it because the first 4 you got, you absolutely believe because, in fact, they're real. So I try to root them all in a lot of research, but allow myself, float around when I need to and make them fictional, compress time, do that kind of thing. When I write for young readers, which I do also, I do invent a lot of it, but I try to invent a lot of it again with as much research I can do. So I've written a series of books called The Kingdom Keepers that are about 5 kids who get inside Disney World after dark.
Oh, wow.
And Disney has let me into their parks after dark with a guide, which is one of the creepier things you've ever imagined. I've been in there, I think, 26 times to write these series of books. So, again, they are fantastical books and kind of fantasy books in a way. I mean, the kids are in there battling the Disney villains after dark. But the experiences the kids have are these freak-out experiences that I've had when I was in there doing my research. So in a lot of ways, they're still, based on my own crazy experiences I've had.
That's pretty cool. That's exciting that they're able to let you in.
Oh, man, I when they asked me to do it, I said, I won't be able to do this unless you can give me full access to the parks. And they said, dude, we don't give anybody free access to our parks. And I said, well, that's cool. Find somebody else. And they called back and said, okay, we'll give you free access, full access to our park. So I get to call up and go in there at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and walk around this ghost town, and it is creepy.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's fun.
I would love to have you on to talk about that book. We'll have to reach out and have you on Author's Corner to talk about it.
Anytime.
I just tweeted you out already, thanking you for being on the show. Followed you on Twitter and stuff. So
thank you, guys.
You're really an entertaining guy. I think that ultimately the reason you write books, what do you think is that love of why you're a writer? What would you say?
I write books so I have a healthy release and I don't get locked up in jail. No, actually, I think I've just always been a storyteller. And you know it when you are. Dave Barry and I have co-written a number of books together. And when we talk to groups of kids, we say, you can study writing, but I'm not sure anybody can teach you to write. They can teach you to write better, but you just kind of know it when you're a storyteller. And I've known it I was the guy matchmaking in middle school, totally making up fiction so that somebody would like somebody else. You know if you're a storyteller. My first storytelling was as a musician. I wrote original songs in bands for 11 years, and then I tried writing a bunch of screenplays, and then I tried writing novels. I wrote for 8.5 years without making a penny. If I was working for IBM, I'd be writing evenings anyway. It's a healthy release. It's something I love to do, and sometimes I get it right. Sometimes I don't, I'm sure.
Well, it definitely seems like you get it right a lot of times. As being a New York Times best-selling author, does that feel great to be a New York Times?
Yeah, there's nothing like knowing people are actually out there reading the books and wanting to go get the books. We spend, all of us spend, as authors, 10, 11 hours in a little room with either a pad of paper or a screen. They don't let us out much. And when they let you out and you go on book tour and you see a room full of people and they're all enthusiastic about what you write, you realize, I do this for a reason, and I bring joy to people, or I get people. In the case of writing for kids, I have parents come up and say, my little Johnny wouldn't read at all, and then he tried a Kingdom Keepers book, and now we can't keep him out of the library, and that kind of stuff makes it all worth it. So yeah, really the bestseller list just means a lot of people are reading your books, and that's a thrill. You would do it for 2 people to read it, but it's fun when it's 200,000. So it's great.
Awesome. And Eric, another awesome author, I tell you, and a great guy for sure, down to earth.
I know, and it's been one of the more entertaining interviews today. Now, we have a live chat room, Ridley, where we have folks that can pose questions and things like that.
And are people alive?
Yeah, it's live here with us, and we had a chat comment come in, and you can decline to answer it if you like, but I figured I'd at least share it on the air. They asked if when you were in Amsterdam, if you partaked in any of the recreational activities, the hashish houses.
No, I didn't. I'm the son of an alcoholic, so I have been clean and sober for almost 20 years. I steer away from anything that would get close to addiction in my life, but I certainly spent a lot of time walking those streets. I was probably getting high just by the fumes floating around, including, the red light part of that is that they're very scantily clad women literally and this shows you how loving it is. Literally in the windows of buildings, lying on a plush couch, showing off their wares. And what cracks you up is there's a telephone there and there's a credit card reader.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
I'll tell you, the credit card reader is a real turnoff. That's a buzzkill. But that side of the world certainly works into Choke Point and fascinated me. And at one point, John Knox has to end up in those rooms, and he's kind of he has kind of a hero complex. He always wants to save everyone, and trying to save some of those women is a difficult chore.
Very cool.
And definitely, you came up with a great storyline, Ridley. Where can our listeners purchase your book and learn more about you?
You can learn more about me at myname.com, which is RidleyPearson.com. And bookstores everywhere carry all the books. I'm fortunate enough to have written almost 50, and there's usually 15 or 20 in any bookstore. And I love finding new readers, so I hope people will give me a try.
Well, our international audience, especially today, but also national syndication will go out for my stuff. It's going to be definitely more new readers for you, and you're a fantastic guy, Ridley. Definitely want to have you back on the show, talk about another book, and enjoy yourself at the Mind Book Fair.
It would be my pleasure to be back on, and I will do that. I'm going to play today. I'm in an all-authors band with Dave Barry, Stephen King, Matt Groening, Roy Blunt Jr., James McBride, who just won the National Book Award, Amy Tan, Greg Iles, and all but Stephen King are here at the Miami Book Fair, and we're playing really bad rock and roll this afternoon at 6 o'clock. So
awesome.
If your ears are cringing wherever you are, that's because music travels far.
Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Life Improvement Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the expressed written consent of Life Improvement Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.